So in preparation of building up the diff head, I've decided to make a diff carrier mount, which is going to bolt to my vise, which I can then bolt the diff carrier to, and that's going to make it a hell of a lot easier to get around the whole diff. I'll be able to spin it around so I can get to the pinion gear nut, and then spin it back so I can get to the side bearings, set the correct preload on those, and also set up the backlash. So there's a little bit of extra footage for you, and follow me through the process. Nothing too flash, but just enough to hold the end plate on. Should do the trick. Okay, progress so far. So we've fabricated the tube, then the piece of pipe's going to slip through and rotate. I've also cut the piece of angle iron off and made up a CAD, a cardboard-aided design for, I call it the horseshoe fitting that will fit around the diff carriers. So I've picked up 5 bolts. This piece I'll fabricate out of a piece of steel, then that's going to be welded to a piece of angle iron, which will mount on there, and tying it all together will be the tube with the piece of pipe running through the centre. So try and balance it together effectively like that, and bear with me. And that will mount up just like that. I'll drill a 25mm hole through the piece of angle line so the pipe can slip through. So effectively it's going to be sitting in sort of somewhere through the centre. And I'm hoping it should be strong enough once it's all welded together to pivot on the pipe and hold the carrier. The carrier's got a little bit of weight to it, so we'll test and adjust as required. So we'll carry on. Alright, so this is where we're at so far. Used the CAD, the cardboard aided design, to cut out the piece of metal in a bit of a horseshoe shape. So that took me a little while. I used the angle grinder to cut the slits down this semicircle piece here, and then I used the file to clean it all up. Cut the piece of angle iron out and welded that to the horseshoe piece, so that's all nice and strong now. What I'm up to at the moment is I'm going to use the hole saw on the drill to drill the hole through the piece of angle iron, ready for the pipe. Once that's done, I'll put it through, set it all up, and then I'll weld the piece of pipe to this horseshoe and angle iron. That should be good to go. Last bit will be to tidy up the piece of tubing, drill the holes through for the bolts that will secure the pipe to stop it rotating. And then I'll need to drill one in the end for the split pin to hold the pipe in. So I'm going to carry on and see how I get on. well, overall not too bad. Here it is. That's probably the best one on the bottom there. We've got a good weld right the way around the pipe. In between the pipe and the horseshoe. The other side there as well. And here's the final product. Well, almost final product anyway. So I've put an M10 bolt through the piece of tubing and just welded a flat bar on it to act as a wing nut. So I can undo that for when I rotate this around 180 degrees. I have left the hole in the end of the piece of pipe here. Even though this bolt's going to stop the horseshoe fitting slipping out, what I think I might do is fit a linch pin, just a small linch pin to this anyway, just to act as another level of safety for when I do take this bolt out, just in case there's a chance of this slipping out. And that linch pin will rotate with the whole assembly as it goes through 180 degrees. So if I take the bolt out here, you see the whole thing can rotate round. Then I just have to find the bolt hole. There it is. Wind the bolt down. Snug that up. And it's going to stop this assembly from slipping out. The small amount of play is in the hole through the piping. It's something I couldn't really avoid, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'll do is I'll give it a bit of a tidy up. I'm going to use the flapper disc on it to get rid of any imperfections and leftover paint. And then I'll give it a quick hit with some etch primer and probably just a matte or gloss black, just to protect it from the elements. So I'll go ahead with that, and I'll see you guys shortly. So after a couple of days work, we've got the final product. So I bought 5 flanged bolts with the nuts to fit the horseshoe fitting to the diff carrier, and then hit both parts with some black paint just to protect it. So the whole horseshoe assembly with the pipe slips through the square tubing. Then I get my M10 bolt with the flat bar acting as a wing nut, find the bolt hole, and wind it through into the captive nut on the inside of the square tubing. Snug that up, and there she is, nice and square, nice and stable. I am relying on the clamping force of the vise to squeeze the square tubing to make sure the whole assembly doesn't drop down. So I've really got to make sure that that's nice and tight. That's only going to be made worse by the added weight of the crown wheel and the diff centre. So if it looks like it's not going to work, I'll come up with a solution to fix that. So if we undo the wing nut, we can swing the whole assembly round 180 degrees. Line up the bolt hole again. Do up our wing nut. Snug that up. And now we've got good access to the top. So once all the diff centres fitted, we can then focus on the pinion nut and we can get the torque right, we can get the bearing preloads right, and make any adjustments as we need to. So thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give me a thumbs up, comment in the bottom and let me know what you guys have been up to, and also click that subscribe button to keep up to date with my KE70 restoration. The next step from here will be getting a few more tools that I need to build the diff head, and all going well, that'll be the next video. So thanks again, stay tuned, and until next time, see you later.